Hey, everybody, we're going to be sitting here talking Vikings, Cowboys, Sunday night football. Is Kirk Cousins going to win a primetime game? Let's get to it.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings.
Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour, fresh off a bye week. I feel refreshed, and I can't speak for my guests tonight, but I'm assuming they feel the same. As we have Sara tonight, joined by my co-host Ryan.
Hello.
And Cowboys are also coming off a bye week, are they not?
They are.
So
A very refreshing bye week, a
we got
nice change of pace.
Yeah, well, I mean, for you guys, it's a little bit different. For us, you guys were rolling. I'm sure you guys wanted to probably keep going and racking up those wins. We couldn't wait to get to a bye week, just to kind of regroup. We're sitting at 500, and we're hoping that we're rested and prepared for the gauntlet of games that is to come in November. With the first one starting off as the Dallas Cowboys on a primetime Sunday night game. So I appreciate you guys hopping on this evening. We got a lot to cover, but before we get to that, I probably didn't do introductions as well as I normally do. So let's start it off here. Sara was, kind of brought to our show by one of our viewers, Ali. He's in the chat right now. He just wrote Skull not too long ago. He's a friend of the show, and anytime that he kind of gives us a recommendation or anything like that, we take that. And so thank you for coming on to coming on tonight, Sarah. If you could let the people
Yeah.
know a little bit about you and maybe how you became a Cowboys fan, and we'll go from there.
Mhm. Yeah, so well, first of all, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So I have been a Cowboys fan basically since birth. I actually do not live in Texas, from New York. But I guess I was born in '94, kind of in the midst of the Cowboys dynasty. Not that I was a fan at birth immediately, but my dad was a big fan, so I've grown up watching them. Was Emmett Smith for Halloween multiple times in elementary school. But yeah, so been a big Cowboys fan, and relatively new to kind of sports media and content world, but it's been proven to be a good hobby outlet outside of work and things like that. So I'm excited to be here and, just talk some sports.
I have to ask, you say you're relatively new to like the sports social media aspect. What is Cowboys Twitter like? Vikings Twitter is very passive aggressive, um, and you got half of them defending Kirk Cousins, the other half is not so much. What is Cowboys Twitter like? What do you guys bicker about?
So I would say bickering has definitely subsided since Dak Prescott, signed his major deal. I think that was a huge aspect of, the Twitter, the bickering back and forth, whether it was worth it, which I think at this point everyone in Cowboys Nation feels very much worth it to sign Dak. So I would say for now, relatively calm the Cowboys fans, but I would say if I had to describe it, somewhat of a chip on their shoulder type of fan, I guess you would say, just from years of kind of getting your hopes up with expectations for the Cowboys that have, in the past few years fallen short, honestly. So I think it's a little bit more of less passive, might some aggressive against, other fan bases in terms of whether the Cowboys are actually for real or not.
I think that's kind of like how I view the Cowboys as well, right? Like I kind of always have some high expectations and just trying to figure out and navigate where they're going to end up in the NFC East, which is a crapshoot every year. I feel like they kind of look like they have the quite the lead this year, but in past years, it's always been like, man, I wish we were in the NFC East because we would be in the playoffs with this record, kind of a thing. Um, we're also joined tonight. I know you didn't get to, he came in while we were kind of rolling live, but this is my co-host Ryan. I know you haven't yet to meet him, and for everybody who's watching or listening, Ryan is here, right in time for the show. Ryan, how are you doing this evening?
Like I said, I was rushing. I was playing dad and playing some video games with my kid, and all of a sudden lost track of time. So I had to quick grab some whiskey and jump on. So no, I'm excited to talk today. It's funny. I don't love the Cowboys, but I love quite a few players on the Cowboys. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch. Watch CeeDee Lamb. I don't, Sarah. Maybe you can help me there. But like Neville Gallimore, is he healthy yet?
He's getting there. Not currently. From what I
Okay.
saw, I think it was Monday, taking a little bit longer than expected.
Darn. Okay. Yeah. I'm a big Oklahoma fan. So, they have a few players on their team from them. Obviously Trevon Diggs is fun to watch. So, it's a lot of talent on that whole team, not even just their offense that, should be a fun game to watch. So definitely excited to talk about it today.
Ryan is understating his. I'm a big fan of the Oklahoma Sooners. It's beyond big. I don't know if there's a room big enough to fill his ego when it comes to talking about the Oklahoma Sooners. So I'm sure
What's
he'll get
fun,
his
what's
chance
fun
to talk.
about the, What's fun about the, just kind of my fanhood, right? So I'm from Oklahoma. My dad's from Oklahoma, but my dad grew up a Texas Longhorn fan and he grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan. And so from just conversations him and I had, his two least favorite teams were always the Oklahoma Sooners and the Minnesota Vikings because they were big rivals, I think, back in the 70s when he grew up to be a fan of the Cowboys. So so for just by happenstance, I happen to be, those are my two favorite teams. There's his two least favorite teams. So of course he'll cheer for us whenever his teams are out and whatnot. But it was fun to kind of poke fun at him about the Texas game this year, and hopefully I can poke fun at him again after this Sunday night.
Um, Before we kind of move on out, two things quick. Ryan, you mentioned whiskey. Is it Four Roses again?
No, it's I don't know. Somebody left this at my house, and I'm out of Four Roses, so it's Noble Oak. It's like a no, you can't really see it. It's like a
Oh, okay.
double oak bourbon, pretty spicy. So
Okay.
I actually had to put some ice in it, which I usually don't do. So
Sarah, are you a drinker at all? Do you have something you have drinking tonight or
Yes.
a go-to?
Yes, you can't see it. Oh my God, can you see me? There we go. It's actually just a pumpkin cider in here, but
Hey,
keeping it cold in this
let's
little
go.
cane. So, it is pumpkin spice season. So, had to oblige.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean the fall has, I mean, especially up here in Minnesota, I think we're at 50s, 40s today, so pumpkin spice lattes and pumpkin everything is in full effect. I mentioned during the roll-in that I was drinking or sipping some tequila tonight, some
ooh,
Terramana. It's the Dwayne the Rock Johnson's small
yep,
batch tequila. It's very good. Um,
I have it in
so
my
if
cupboard
anyone in the
actually.
chat, do you?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
I,
I got some.
I gotta say when I first tried it, um, it it took a lot of effort to take that first sip because I had to be like, Matt, you're not in college anymore. You're not like ripping shots here. You're just taking
It's a
a
sipping
sip of it.
tequila.
You're
Yeah,
enjoying it. Um, and here I am,
it's like a
this is what, night
it's
three,
like a
three
poor
of it. It's
man's
going well.
it's like a poor man's Casamigos Blanco, which I like Casamigos Blanco a lot. So it's good.
I've
It's
never
not
had that.
great.
No.
Well, we'll have to try it next time we get together. All right. Well,
Dave, you're
yeah.
kind of
No,
being
let's jump in,
summoned
huh?
from the chat. Oh, I want to call
Yeah.
Dave out here quick because he has been summoned from the
Yeah.
chat. Um, they're asking where's Super Dave, and I just want to know what Dave's drinking if he's back there quick.
If I hit the right button, I'm here. I'm
I
drinking
trust you.
my new standard because you remember I was telling you I get the mixed pack 18 packs on sale. Well, they're no longer on sale, so I get the 18 packs of the Carbach Rodeo Clown Double IPA. Nice,
Okay,
Nice.
dark,
very nice.
highly bitter ale. 9 point something ABV. 9.5.
Oh man,
Yikes.
Yes.
sometimes I wonder if you're going to be able to produce by the end of the show, Dave. Pounding
Hey,
that
it
Hey,
takes
nine
lots of
percenters.
practice, lots of years of practice, but I've got it down pretty good. Um, hey, Ryan, you said somebody left you a bottle of bourbon. That's got to be one of the
yeah.
nicest gifts ever.
It's when people come over
It
and then
certainly
they get
wasn't
too
me.
drunk, and they get too drunk to remember to take their stuff home. So I usually have some liquor and then some hats and shoes. My neighbors sometimes just are not. They forget a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, so I've gotten like 3 bottles of tequila and 2 bottles of whiskey over the last like 3-4 months. So it works out.
Hmm. So, you guys
All
carry
right,
on. Let's talk some Vikings and Cowboys.
let's do it. I know. I just got a text from my wife. She goes, "You guys going to talk about the Vikings at all?" And so I got the hint. All right, we spent long enough on introductions. Let's get going. Uh, Sarah, any takeaways from the bye week? Whether it's Cowboys related, whether it's just watching last week's game, are there any takeaways that you had?
Yeah, I guess I would say from a Cowboys perspective, it was a pretty, despite not playing, I guess a solid win in their book, in terms of, Washington football team and the Eagles lost. So that's always good to, build a little bit of gap in the NFC East. It seems like Dak Prescott, I guess the bye week, while they were, like you said, on a roll, kind of hurt to have that coming off of that aspect, but with Dak getting potentially injured to some degree, at the end of the Patriots game. I think it came at a good time for that. It appears, I guess he's pretty much good to go for this weekend, but I think it seems like he was able to kind of get some time healing wise. So I'd say that was another, kind of positive aspect of coming off of that. But yeah, I'd say in terms of overall games, in my opinion, is a little bit of a weaker week, I guess we had this past week. Not a lot of great games, which you at some of the spreads of the games going into it. It wasn't playing out to be the most exciting, but a week of football is always a good week. So
Yeah, Daniel in the chat mentioned, and I think I saw this scroll across my Twitter feed, but you guys got Michael Gallup back, right? He's back from being injured as well, so another weapon for your Cowboys
hmm
this weekend.
yes,
Well,
I'm
that's
not. He's
exciting.
back at practice. He's back at practice. I don't know if he's actually set to play yet this week. But within, I
Okay,
think they said within the next 2 weeks. So that's definitely exciting because people
awesome.
forget, they have so many great wide receivers. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm jealous of the weapons that you guys have on that team. Ryan, any takeaways from you from this past bye week?
Nothing too much. I mean, I think that when you look at some of our wins that we've had this year, right? We've had the Seattle win, the Panthers win, and the Lions. Again, all of that. Seattle we handled pretty well, and they're looking to be what average at best team. So it doesn't typically a Seattle win's a good thing, right? Like you can chalk that up as a quality win. I don't think they're. Of course, Russ is hurt, right? So they're just not quite the same team anymore right now. And obviously, Lions are winless, and Panthers are now showing to be their 3 wins in the beginning of the year don't mean anything because every game they played since has been quite poor. So I think just realizing some of that through this last week and watching the Panthers get kind of beat up by they got beat up by the Giants, right? It just kind of shows that we don't have any quality wins. And so we need to really come into this week, use this bye week to get healthy, which I think we've done. I think Pierce is the only one that's still, nicked up and really attack this game head on. We have home field advantage, Sunday night game. I might be there. I don't know. I saw nobody's bought my tickets yet. So I got to take the kids trick or treating, but after that, I might be heading to the game. And we'll see what we have because I think this is a good litmus test. I mean, we've been in every
Absolutely.
tough game. We've all so like every game we've played this year basically has been a close one. So can we keep it close now against a next tier team? Because we've only played 2 top tier teams so far. I think maybe 3.
Yeah.
The Bengals, Cardinals, and who else? I forget.
I mean, the Panthers were at the time, right? Like they were
They're
probably
not. No,
considered
they're
to be a
not.
little bit better. Not anymore.
It was a facade. Yeah. Who's our other loss to? Who's our other loss to? The Bengals, the Cardinals, and the
The
Browns,
Browns.
which again they're beat up as well, right? And so they're struggling a bit. But I think they pulled out a gritty win last Thursday. So we get I
Yeah.
think Cowboys are in a kind of tier above most of these teams, except for the Cardinals probably. And so this will be a good test. Can we keep up with them? And then can we pull out a win against a good team?
Well, let's talk about that, right? There's a bunch of different aspects we can go about with looking at this game. Um, Typically, it's just very homery on this show. It's just you and me kind of talking with another Vikings guest. We sometimes have opposing teams guests come on, but I want to take a different stance on it. So I'm going to have like Sara defend the Cowboys side, and Ryan, you defend the Vikings side, and just kind of
Are
go
you sure
at
you
it.
want me doing that? Maybe you
Absolutely.
should be defending.
Yeah, well, I guess yeah. In that sense, you're a little bit more realistic, or at least for the show's sake, more of a realist when it comes to the Vikings. I'm pounding that homer drum over here, but let's start with the first one. I think it's the elephant in the room. I think it's going to be a talking point all week. We kind of already alluded to it. The Cowboys wide receivers slash just weapons in general, right? When you think about the fact that they have Ezekiel Elliott, they have Tony Pollard. I think Schultz has proven to be quite the tight end. He came on strong last season. Has put together a solid season this year. You got CeeDee Lamb, you got Amari Cooper, and then Dak Prescott, right? Throwing to all these guys, handing off, whatever. So you got the Cowboys' weapons versus the Vikings' DBs, which while they have come on as of late, they are now without Patrick Peterson, who was probably their best cornerback throughout the season. And they're probably going to trot out Cam Dantzler, who has been in the doghouse most of the year from Mike Zimmer. and Bashad Breeland, who is doing his best Xavier Rhodes impersonation, and every time he gets burned, he just pretends he has an injury. What, to be fair, he maybe could have an injury, but that doesn't fit the narrative I want to put out here right now. So let's start with it. Ryan, I'm going to let you defend the DBs. Sara, you defend the Cowboys' weapons. And Sara, since you are the guest, uh, tell me how you think your Cowboys' weapons will go against our Vikings corners and safeties and whatnot.
Yeah, so I appreciate you giving me a softball on the first real question here because I think this is the easiest one to defend. But I
Yes.
mean, to be honest, I don't think there's very many teams that really have a good answer for the Cowboys and their wide receivers. And like you said, because of their strong history in the running game with both Zeke and, Tony Pollard, and Dak being a, pretty mobile quarterback, it's tough, to provide an answer for that. And I think the biggest issue will be it's very difficult to determine who the Cowboys don't really even have a top wide receiver right now. Amari Cooper, if Gallup's, healthy, playing well, CeeDee Lamb, Cedrick Wilson is actually an incredible weapon for them as well. So I don't know who you choose to cover on those big plays. All of them are such an asset to the team. And then obviously there's always, the threat with the running game and even Dak on his feet. So I think I don't really have much to add to that other than just kind of listing off those names. I think is a defense in itself, just because, like I said, it's so hard for any team to really put any corner. I feel like you could put up against some of those wide receivers and, some of the best in the league. So it's hard to provide anything from that standpoint further.
I think you bring up a good point too, right? Like obviously, I think from the national view or from like a person who's not necessarily associated with the Cowboys, I think CeeDee Lamb's probably the top receiver on your team, and you guys might view it that way as well. But when you think about it, like from a statistical standpoint, most teams only have like one guy they're throwing to. You don't know who the Cowboys are going to throw to, and everybody they throw to is a threat, like across the board, from top to bottom. Like I think CeeDee Lamb is probably the most dangerous, but even going down to a Dalton Schultz, like he can beat you
Mhm.
too. And we got destroyed by Max Williams in the Cardinals earlier this year, so maybe this is his game. Who knows? But Ryan, I'll let you attempt to defend the Vikings DBs on this one.
Um, I don't really have much to say on this. I mean, if my goal is to try to defend them, I think I'm gonna, have to take an L here. But Breland has been playing well as of late, I guess, right? I mean, when he's not complaining about an injury, he is, playing well. I think Dantzler has some confidence and swagger with him right now. Now he's coming off the bench and playing limited reps, so it's easy to have some quick wins and feel confident. But we did this a couple years ago, and I think it was Chris Boyd, or no, it was Mike Hughes had to line up against Amari Cooper and just got lit up
Last
all
year,
game.
wasn't it?
I think it's 2 years ago. Yeah. And got lit up all game. So I think the only way we have a chance on the defensive side is kind of try to run that same game plan we ran from 2 years ago when we did somehow beat the Cowboys, which was stop Zeke at all costs. Like, I mean, and I know he's not the main focus of the team anymore, like he was 2 years ago, but if you limit that running game and put them as a one-dimensional team and let that pass rush get after the passer, because our DBs aren't great. Our safeties are fine. Our corners are not great. But we do have a really good pass rush with Everson, Danielle Hunter, some pressure coming up the middle with Tomlinson and Richardson. I don't think Richardson's done much this year yet, but so you have some talent there where if you get that pass rush moving forward, about the run as much because you took it away already, you might be able to limit at least the big plays, right? And make them dink and dunk all the way down the field. I mean, it's going to be tough to cover them. I think CeeDee Lamb in the next year or two is going to be a consensus top 5 receiver with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and like probably Hopkins still will be up there, right? And I don't know who else. So like, I mean, these
I know
guys
who
are
else,
the
if you
real
want to
deal.
say his name.
Stephon Diggs, yes, sure. And And then you have Cooper on the other side, who is just an elite route runner. Like, he gets open and he has pretty solid hands. So, and to your point, you got Dalton Schultz, who's like a second. I mean, I won't say second coming of Jason Witten, but like a poor man's Jason Witten, right? He's not overly dynamic, but he's solid enough blocker, and he's got great hands and just has a good feel for where the soft spots are in the zones and plays, right? So, we have a lot on our plate here. So I think if you can, I think somebody had put in the comments, if you can at least take Zeke out of the game as much as you possibly can and make them one dimensional and let that pass rush do their thing, we would maybe have a chance to, hold them to like 35 points.
35 points.
This offense is good, man. It's really
Oh
good.
my goodness. Yeah, well, it's going to be tough, right? And it's going to be, it was already mentioned in the chat here, right? Like, it's going to be a shootout. Like, that's probably the way this game goes. I think our last game was a shootout. I think if it wasn't for Dak targeting Zeke on like a third down, pretty close to the end zone, and Eric Kendricks making an amazing play, I'm pretty sure the Cowboys beat us last time.
Yep.
Dak really played very well. So let's talk about that, right? Like, it's probably going to come down to the quarterbacks and who can either have the ball last and deliver a final drive. Kirk has proven this year that he can do that. He's capable of it. Um, but also Dak, right? Like, he's on a redemption tour. I feel like, coming off of his injury. I think he's been on fire for a lot of the season so far, and the first thing I think of Dak this season is that first week in Tampa, right? Like, he went toe to toe with Tom Brady, and I was sad to see you guys lose that week. Actually, I nothing would have made me happier than to see Dak Prescott and the Cowboys take down Tom Brady and put those guys in their place, but instead he just came up short. But let's Sarah, tell us a little bit more about Dak Prescott that the average fan might not know about. Is he good under pressure? How is he on the road? Um, any flaws that you know of, or just pump him up if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think in terms of when, that your comments that it's probably going to come back down to the last drive, I think that's exactly what's how things are going to play out. That tends to be the case for the Cowboys, and I know for the Vikings as well. Lots of close games. Definitely going to be a shootout, and I think the difference fan under Dak Prescott is he has shown, that composure and, in those final minutes of the games, the hurry up offense. And I think that's something I've noticed as a fan is you don't really feel too stressed when it comes down to the final drive. Like, is he going to do something stupid, throw a pick here? He's definitely grown past that, coming out of, no longer a rookie, right? That's typically how things work. But some quarterbacks are still always at risk for doing things like that. But I think he's definitely learned how to avoid those situations. So I think I was even saying that I was at the Patriots game, and I was like, which was a wild ending to the game, right? And you just felt totally
Yeah,
confident with the Cowboys, steamrolling down the field. So I think it just is going to be a matter of, I know Kirk Cousins is capable of it too. So I think it's a matter of who has that opportunity in terms of time. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think Dak was on for, record-setting season last year prior to his injury. So I think this is just further, going off of that. And then with the added bonus, like you said, the redemption tour. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to stop in that regard. He's just an absolute animal, really, in terms of toughness. So I think that's, I don't know, Kirk Cousins coming on. Well, he always seems, to me, he seems older than he really is. I name appears or whatever, but coming on more of a tail end of his career in terms of toughness, physicality. If it comes down to a shootout where they're scoring a lot of points or if they're, getting pass rush, I mean, it's wear and tear too, right? Towards the end of the game. So I think Dak being a little bit more physically capable, tough, I guess, might lead them to come out, on top in that regard.
I want to ask you a quick question, and actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of two questions. One is based on your comments about Dak Prescott. The other one, quick, is Ali, who recommended you for the show tonight. He asked who your all-time favorite Cowboy is. So if you want to answer that quick, and then I'll ask you my question about Dak.
Mm. So I'm going to sound like super biased after this, but it is Dak Prescott. That's an easy one.
Hey, that's fair. That's
Easy
fair. I
one.
mean, you're growing up in the prime of, well, not growing up, but like you're appreciating it for his prime in his career. So The question I had for you about Dak Prescott is, Zimmer is known for, his double A gap blitzes, his confusing defensive looks. Do you think that Zimmer um, can pose some challenges for Dak Prescott this weekend? Do you think that Dak is, coming off of not playing for a while? Granted, he's had a few games, but generally speaking, do you think that Zimmer could maybe challenge Dak Prescott with some of the looks that he can give, or do you think that Dak just has too many weapons at hand that it's just not going to be that much of a problem?
Yeah, I think definitely opportunity for them to challenge him. I think he, well, didn't play football last year, just from what I've heard, work ethic wise, that didn't stop him from continuing to do kind of the off the field work that you need to do in that regard. I think the best thing that the Vikings will be able to do though is the Cowboys still have a little bit of weakness in their offensive line. So I think with, pass rushing, putting some pressure under Dak, I think that's going to be the best thing that you guys can do to hopefully, so he's not getting as clear of looks at all of those wide receivers, right? And I know Terrence Steele is starting over Lyle Collins, who's back after his suspension this week. And I'm hopeful that at least that'll kind of light a fire under both of them, the fight for starting position. But still a little bit of weakness there in the offensive line, lots of holding calls, penalties. Tyron Smith is excellent, but getting towards the end of his career. So I think utilizing some putting pressure on Dak's really going to be the best way that they're able to kind of get him a little bit uncomfortable in there and hopefully maybe make some, poor decisions.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping for, right? Like our defensive line, I feel like can provide that pressure. So it's going to be up to Dak to kind of make decisions in critical moments. And our third down defense, if we get you there, I feel like we have a good chance because our third down defense is. I think I didn't look after the bye week, but it was up near the top again, like 24% or 26% of third down conversions. So
Third down
Ryan,
defense is the best in the league.
it is still the best in the league after the bye week.
Yeah, as well as sacks and pressures. We're number one in those categories.
Let's go. Get ready, Dak, but don't hurt him because I actually do
Yeah.
like Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I think Dak's
Ryan, I know
probably
this is.
my top five. Like he's definitely in my top five right now.
Mhm.
For just favorite. I have him
I'll
in two
trade you
fantasy
Kurt for
leagues, and
Dak right now.
oh, absolutely, yeah, I would love that.
Not open to
Yeah, but
negotiations.
Ryan, I know this goes against everything in your being here, but I'm gonna need you to
yeah,
just
yeah.
pump up Kirk a little bit. He has had some fourth quarter comebacks. Like he's kept us in most games.
Yeah, here's the thing with Kirk is when his money's on the line, he plays phenomenally, right? Like when he needs to perform because he's got a contract extension coming or he's
One
pumping
year
up his
contract
value
all
for
the
the
way out
next
now.
contract, he's going to play his best football. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past him to continue to just keep up this really great play that he is doing. So it's not that I'm a Kirk Cousins hater because I do like the guy in terms of just his talent. He's a very good quarterback, but I just feel like he needs to do a little bit more for us to get over the hump, so to speak, right? But yeah, I mean, he's playing great. I think he's playing. This is probably his best year of football he's maybe ever had, at least that I've ever seen him watched
Yeah.
him play. And we're going up against a Cowboys secondary that isn't super strong. I know they're making some flashy plays with Trevon Diggs making an interception a week, averaging. Actually, I think he's over an interception a week right now, technically, and he's making these plays, but he's also given up some big plays this year. And the Anthony Brown opposite of him is not quite it. Right. I appreciate him because he's long and he's fast, but he just doesn't get his head around and he just gives up these big plays. And the safeties are, coming along, but, so I think there's some opportunity here where Kirk, for the most part, makes good decisions, right? As long as our play calling is aggressive enough to take advantage of what Kirk been able to do when he's aggressive, we can keep up point for point with this Cowboys team just because I don't have confidence in their defense as much. Micah Parsons has been phenomenal. It's fun to watch him play. I think he's a great player for you guys. You have some good pieces on the D line and whatnot. And like I said, Trevon Diggs, if you give him an opportunity, he's going to make the play. So we've got to make sure that we're limiting those opportunities. But I think our next topic was Trevon versus Justin Jefferson. And one thing
Yeah.
JJ is really good at is the ability to run great routes and pull on some double moves that will get guys like Trevon Diggs to bite because he wants to make the play. And we should have some opportunities to take some shots. Can we execute? Can our offensive line hold up long enough? That's yet to be seen. We know that if Kirk has the opportunity and the time, he's going to hit the player on, in between the numbers. So I'll give Kirk his credit. And, I think more of our woos this year is not, or woes, I should say, is not on him.
No
It's more
woos.
so on our
Let's
play
stick with
call.
woos.
Not woos. Yeah. But it's not on him. It's more so on the play calling that we have. So if we can focus on, being a little bit more aggressive, I think that Kirk should be able to take advantage of the secondary.
You alluded to our next topic. I don't know if Sara knows this. She's new to following me on Twitter. She's new to the show here. I am a Stefon Diggs stan through and through, and so I guess in part of Stefon Diggs, I'm also a Trevon Diggs fan. Um, I think they both have that same mentality, just at a different position, right? And Ryan talked about it a little bit. Trevon Diggs is going to go for that big play, right? Like he'll. I feel like he's willing to give up a 60, 70-yard touchdown to kind of jump a route and see if he can take one to the house versus just like kind of playing up to his man a little bit more and just making sure it's just an incompletion. But what if you guys thought, like, he's on a historic run here through 7 games or 6? What are your guys' thoughts about Trevon Diggs down there?
Absolutely love him. I mean, nothing bad to say really, other than I do agree. You both kind of hit it right perfectly. He does take those gambling moves, and at times, sometimes it's not the end of the world, but in games like, where it almost cost them against the Pats, that is a little bit more of an issue. But I would say that will, I think, hopefully come with time, that maybe he'll get a little bit better at kind of determining when to take those risks, when not to, and be a little bit more. I think their safeties are lacking a little bit right now because Donovan Wilson has been out, which he's their top safety at this point in time. And I think with a little bit better secondary coverage to support Trayvon, Anthony Brown is not, I'm not a fan at all, but he makes enough big plays to stay around, but that's all he does, kind of the bare minimum, I think, in that regard. But yeah, I mean, how can you not? I mean, Trayvon Diggs is on obviously record-setting pace. 7 interceptions in 6 games is absolutely wild. It's fun to watch as a fan, right? The defense obviously historically, every offensive game, but so when defense is creating turnovers, scoring, things like that, it makes it so much more fun as a fan to watch. And historically, the Cowboys had very low. I mean, Byron Jones was an excellent corner, but no one was targeting him, so there was no opportunity for turnovers from him. So last year, I'm pretty sure they were one of the worst in the teams in the league, if not the worst, in terms of turnovers and interceptions, etc. So it's a big change from previous years. For now, it's worth it. They're capable of putting up the points, right? So if he does get burned on a few plays, they know the offense can come right back down the field. So
I've heard you, and forgive me, I haven't like stayed in touch with Cowboys football. Ryan's a big football guru, and he just kind of knows people from college as well. Um, I've heard you both kind of talk down about Anthony Brown through 6 games, whatever. And just I only looked at PFF for how Cowboys players were, subjectively doing. Um, and they did have him ranked as like the 13th corner in the NFL. So, Sara, can you kind of tell me a little bit, like they have him ranked as the 13th corner? We're not really sure what the grading is for PFF in terms of rating cornerbacks such as Anthony Brown, but what don't you like about him? What do you think is like a flaw that we can expose.
Yeah, so I think Ryan said it earlier. He more often than not, he is not turning around. And it seems like it's always on the big plays. He's just getting absolutely burned. I don't know. I'm interested. I didn't know he was actually ranked 13th, so that's pretty surprising because I feel like I've honestly been on his case since last year, like immediately. It just seems like he was always the one on big third down plays who was just getting absolutely burned. A lot of missed tackles, in my opinion. I'd have to see the stats on that, but just from watching games, I feel like that's the case. He does, like I said, comes up with a few interceptions every once in a while that I think keeps him around, maybe boosts his stats a little bit. They don't have very many options otherwise outside of him, though. I mean, Jordan Lewis, I don't think is any better from a corner standpoint. So I mean, they have options, but I guess if you were to statistically look at things, he would be their top corner. But it just seems like those big plays, he's either, not getting his head around, missing a tackle, or just getting, absolutely misreading the route entirely sometimes. And you'll see him 10 yards away from where he's supposed to be. It's kind of like, how'd you miss that one, sort of.
Yeah, I think with PFF grades, you always take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Like, I mean, they have Trevon Diggs as like the 61st ranked corner, which I would argue that he's probably playing better than Anthony Brown. But to each their own. Ryan, you can tell me if I'm incorrect here, but it sounds like Anthony Brown might be more of like a Cowboys version of Trey Waynes back when he was here,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly. Exactly.
maybe in good
Yep.
position, just couldn't quite, you know, put both together, right? But
Yeah,
if you
I
could just
mean,
master that second piece, you'd be great.
yeah, I think that is the absolute perfect comparison to give for him. Again, just a good, well-built cornerback that's fast, that's big, that's typically in position even for the most part, but just can't make a play. And again, and this is me watching from afar. Obviously, I don't watch every Cowboys game. I'm not religiously watching each game, but I do watch as many as I can because, like I said, I like to watch Dak and CD and these guys. And it just seems like, and to Sarah's point, it just seems like it's one big play or two a game that makes it seem like the rest of his game is garbage because he gave up those one or two big plays. And whether that big play is an actual completion that he missed or it's a defensive pass interference or something like that, it just seems like he's just not taking advantage of the position he's putting himself in. And again, from afar, I don't watch every play, so.
I want to touch on just a couple things before we get to the lightning round, and Sarah, I'll let you know what the lightning round's all about here. But let's talk about the Vikings offensive line versus the Cowboys defensive line. Sans Demarcus Lawrence, right? But the Cowboys, I feel like we're kind of seeing this weekly as a Vikings team. Maybe some underrated defensive lines. I feel like Randy Gregory has actually played pretty well this season. Um, I don't know who plays opposite of him, so I'm going to defer to Sarah, the Cowboys expert of the show. Tell us about your defensive line and how they are doing this year, and if you think that they, have a chance to kind of push over our offensive line. I can tell you personally right now, you could probably go right up the middle against Garrett Bradbury and have a field day. But I'll let you speak to your defensive line and let the fans kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, so I mean, Randy Gregory, I'm absolutely huge fan. I don't know if you guys happen to know his story and everything, but it's just kind of one of those heartwarming stories. So off the field, but on the field, I mean, he's been incredible this year. Very underrated to your point. I actually saw earlier that Pro Football Focus had him ranked 94th overall, so he had the highest amount of like pressure plays and sacks from anyone who's played 25 snaps. So I mean, we saw it last week against Mac Jones, or 2 weeks ago now at this point. But yeah, he's constantly applying pressure if he's not getting those sacks. And I think not applicable to the Vikings game, but it's going to be a real problem for other teams once DeMarcus Lawrence is back because, who do you really attack? Who are you double teaming from that point, right? I think Micah Parsons' ability to flex up on there too, is going to be a threat for Kirk Cousins as long as they're, not, I guess they'd be gambling a little bit with the secondary by pulling him up on, as a pass rusher in the defensive line. But Yeah, I mean, I think Randy Gregory's been incredible, and they have lots of other, supporting guys kind of coming in and out. But I think it should be a good challenge for the Vikings offensive line.
And you guys have
Yeah,
that
I mean,
rookie Osa from UCLA, I think, right? I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna even try. But I hear he's just been playing super well. And if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm looking at the top matchup because we do have two good, tackles, right? I mean, I think our two tackles are actually pretty good. Our interiors where our weak links are for the most part on our offensive line. So I think Osa, if you can kind of scheme up some one-on-ones, because I know he's more of like a penetrating three technique. So if you can,
Exactly. Yep.
scheme up some one-on-ones with Garrett Bradbury or even with Oli Udo in like a more of
mhm.
a confusing sense. Because Udo, once he gets his hands on you, you're good. But if you can kind of confuse him and whatnot, that's where you can, make some pressures. So I think that's where your advantage is, in my opinion, on the during this trenches matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, let's do one more thing here before we hit lightning round. I had it in the show notes as a difference maker for each team. Let's kind of shift it more towards like keys to victory, right? Like all the cool pregame shows do the keys to victory. We'll stick with that. Sarah, what do you view as the Cowboys' keys to victory this Sunday night? I don't think we've given it enough like hype. The fact that it's a Sunday night football game. I think this is poised to be one of the best Sunday night football games this season, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
what are the keys to victory for the Cowboys?
So I would say probably biggest thing would be the cornerback, the secondary being able to control, a few, obviously you guys have a few great offensive weapons, but I think while doing so, also limiting the running and, Dalvin Cook and a little bit worried about how they're going to manage doing that. But I think, like I said earlier, utilizing Micah Parsons. So I actually had down as kind of who might be the difference maker for each team. I know I'm skewing back to what we talked about earlier, not doing the keys to victory, but I felt like maybe utilizing him as both a linebacker and then pulling him up, for in a defensive end, depending upon what they're kind of going for scheme wise. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that the Cowboys can do, because like we said, it's going to be a shootout. So any stops that they can get, third down plays that they can hold them on is going to be the biggest. And then obviously limiting any turnovers from the Cowboys standpoint too, right? Because every possession is going to matter. If, either defense isn't able to make a major stop, it's going to come down to limiting any mistakes and turnovers.
I am very excited to watch Micah Parsons. Um, there was a small portion of me last draft who was like, maybe, maybe if he fell, we could take him, right? He could be the replacement to Anthony Barr and just kind of sit next to Kendricks, and Zimmer could utilize him. So I am very excited um, to watch him this weekend. Ryan, what are your keys to victory for the Vikings?
Yeah, I think trying to keep the our offense on the field as long as possible, and as a way of playing defense against this Cowboys offense, right? Like limiting their amount of time on the field, running the ball. I'm not a big advocate of running the ball a lot, like me, but I think we need to utilize the run game as best as we can. Utilize the play action game. Get Kirk off of the out of the pocket and on the move with some play action and some pre-snap motion. And I think if you can, again, sustain drives, eat the clock a little bit, play some of that way of playing defense, we should be able to, again, hopefully mitigate that offensive firepower that they have and move forward. The one thing that I think is a little bit underrated here, and granted, Kellen Moore is an offensive genius, but I think obviously Mike McCarthy does have some of his, like, I don't know, his mojo, so to speak, into this offense. And we had his number for the last few years of his days in on the Packers, right? Like Zimmer kind of understood what he was trying to do, and we were able to limit to, as best as we could, Aaron Rodgers and that offense. So I think if we can kind of channel in some of that energy as well, maybe we can create a couple stops randomly.
I think you bring up a good point about, I feel like a lot of people expect this game to be a shootout, including myself. But one of the best techniques or strategies that you can have here, right, is long drives to keep the opposing offense off the field. We saw them do it a year ago in Seattle versus Russell Wilson. The Vikings did, um, and so I know fans want us to be aggressive, but I could totally see the Vikings and Zimmer going with that kind of approach of just like, let's pound the rock, let's keep them off the field, right? Wear down their defense, and then when it really matters in the fourth quarter, um, turn it up a little bit when that defense is gassed. So um, this is my favorite part of the show. It's new this year, but it is we call it lightning round. And for Sara and for those who don't know what it is, Dave will pump in that music, I think. Let's see if it starts. There it is. Just very slow, but it gets you kind of worked up. Ryan can attest that I love this portion every week. Anyway, we're gonna go through really quick. Um, I'm gonna pretty much give you a prompt and you speak to it. The first section is over or under. Next is buy or sell. I forgot to put headlines in there, so I'll just make some up when we get to that point. But pretty much I'll give you a prompt, speak to it a little bit, tell me what you think. So here's the lightning round. Over or under, we're starting with Sara and the Cowboys. Zeke has historically not done well against the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm giving you a prompt of over or under 60.5 yards rushing for Zeke this weekend, Sara. What do you think?
I struggle with this one, but I'm going to say over by a margin. I think the Cowboys are really going to try and establish the run early. So I don't think much more than that. Probably going to be in splitting carries with Pollard about 60-40%, I would say, but over.
Awesome. Ryan, we're shifting a little bit here. We're not doing the running game for our side. We're doing the passing game. It's Kirk Cousins, 250 yards and a half, because, we got to put the half in there. But passing yards, over or under this week?
My guess is if we aren't over that, we're going to get destroyed. So I'm going to go ahead and say over.
All right. Fair enough. In Dak's last two games versus the Vikings, I think he's had 4 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns passing. So I thought a good place to put this over-under for Sara here is Dak at 3.5 touchdowns. We can say combined rushing and rushing and throwing, but I feel like Dak doesn't rush for touchdowns very often. But nonetheless, Sara, what do you think off of Dak 3.5 touchdowns?
I'm going to say the over. I mean, I think we've talked about it being a shootout, but now I'm a little bit convinced that maybe they're going to try and draw out long drives, because you had a very convincing argument there with extending drives and everything. But I'm going to say over. I think they'll have definitely at least 4. Probably not. I'd say 4 touchdowns. So over.
All right. It is the Vikings, so, I could see Dak Prescott just making maybe tying the record of 8 touchdowns, whatever it is. Typical Vikings fashion. Dave, can I have you reset the music just out of selfishness? Ryan, we got buy, sell. Oh, shit. Sorry. Rewind that back. We're still on over and under. Maybe the tequila's starting to hit me a little bit. Vikings D-line here against the Vikings offense, or the oh my goodness. The Vikings.
All right, so the D line, 2.5 sacks. All right, yeah. Hey, by the way, real quick, Ollie, great Ross Geller, throw out, shout out into the chat there. Yeah, lightning round from Friends. If anyone watched that show, I guess I may be aging myself a little bit, but my wife loves it, so I love it as well. Over 2.5. Yeah, I think we're gonna go over. I think, again, going back to my last argument, if we don't go over, if we're not creating at least pressures, but also getting to the quarterback, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think Danielle Hunter wants to make a statement. He's going against Terrence Steele, if I'm assuming he's starting. And I think he's going to be able to create some havoc there. And then we got some good penetrating D tackles that can make some noise against, again, a rebuilding interior for the Cowboys there. I know you got Connor Williams and Martin, but that Tyler, was it? I don't know how to say his last name, but the kid center from Wisconsin, he's not that good. So, can you, Sarah? What was his name?
Honestly, I don't want to mispronounce it on here, I have like all these pronunciations of people in my head that I'm pretty sure are not right. You know, when you're just like reading and watching the game yourself. Right. But no, he's had a lot of as far as or whatever. Yeah, he's not great under center. Hoping it's just some, I guess, learning curve. Coming out from college. But yeah, definitely an exposure for them.
I'm getting some heat in the chat because I fell apart on that last prompt, but we're going to switch to buy sell here. And also, I guess the Vikings and Cowboys have common ground, right? They both have bad centers potentially. We can agree on that part. Sarah, buy sell Trevon Diggs historic start.
This is a tough one. I'm going to say buy. I struggle with that. I think at this point, he's going to gamble and make enough plays where he's going to at least get an interception this game just by pure, going for it. Doesn't mean he's probably going to give up some big plays with that as well, but I think he will come out with an interception.
All right. Dave's telling me I just got to keep drinking more tequila. It takes practice. Ryan, we've seen the Vikings defense on the rise the past 3 weeks heading into the bye. Holding their opponents to minimal points, only to fall apart in 2-minute situations. But aside from that, are you buying or selling the Vikings defense on the rise?
Hard sell. Yeah, definitely selling. We've been playing some not great great offenses. I know the Browns defense is pretty. The Browns is pretty good typically, and they were just having a day that day. But the Browns offense a week later dominated, right? So I think we did well that game, but we're playing the Lions and the Panthers the last 2 games. I mean, they're garbage teams, so I'm not gonna buy it until I see us do that against good offenses like our next 2 weeks with the Cowboys and Ravens. So if they continue up from there, then I'll start buying a little bit, but I'm selling right now.
This one's kind of out of the blue. I talked about it earlier. I think that Tony Pollard is a very good running back for you guys, and I do think that Zeke is overrated. I from an outside perspective, I wish you didn't pay him as much as you did. But I want to ask you, Sarah, buy or sell the fact that Tony Pollard might be better than Zeke?
I think the keyword here is might. I don't think he is quite yet for the Cowboys. I mean, he's incredibly explosive, and I think Zeke's lost just a little bit of that, that comes with age as a running back. But I think Pollard isn't quite doing all the little things that Zeke does in terms of, blocking, QB protection, things like that. So I would still take Zeke over Pollard any day. But future me, we would have to go back to that.
All right. Yeah, that's a future you problem. Ryan, yes. We saw Adam Thielen slightly get phased out of the Vikings offense for 2 weeks, but he ended the first portion of the Vikings season on a high note. Are you buying or selling Adam Thielen as being the wide receiver 1 on this Vikings team?
Is he considered the wide receiver 1 by anyone besides maybe his wife?
Well, I think there's a subsect of Vikings Twitter that feels that way.
Oh, the homers that just love the fact that he's from Minnesota. He is not wide receiver 1. I'm not.
Did you know he's from Detroit Lakes?
No, I had no idea. I actually went to college with him, but yeah, no, I'll sell that. I mean, he's good. I'm not trying to downplay that. he's a really high quality receiver. He's not better than Justin Jefferson. So, but like, I mean, I guess the Cowboys are in the same territory, right? Like you have a young, emerging, like really good receiver in CeeDee Lamb, like we have in Justin Jefferson, and then you have like the vet who's really really good route runner, really strong hands, gets open and just gets the job done in Amari Cooper, like we have Adam Thielen. We love Adam Thielen in the red zone, so I mean he's going to get more touchdowns, but just from like a yardage and just getting, just being a better player. I mean, Jefferson's typically going against the Trevon Diggses of the team and not the Anthony Browns or the slot corners. So I'll sell that he's wide receiver one.
All right. Last section of lightning round. I didn't give you a prompt, but typically the final section is the headline game. I give you a headline. You tell me what happened in the game. So you wake up. I guess Sara said she's from New York, but let's say you woke up in Dallas on Monday morning. The headline reads, how about them Cowboys? What happened in Sunday night's game to get that headline?
How about them Cowboys? I feel like people typically tend to use that when it's actually a close win rather than a blowout. So I would say maybe, I don't think it'd be an overtime win, but I think it'd be Cowboys win down to the wire by a touchdown.
I don't think that my heart / liver could take another overtime game from the Vikings this year. So if we could just chalk it up to 4 quarters, that would work just fine with me. Ryan, I'm running out of ideas here for a headline for the Vikings. The only thing that comes to mind, and it goes against everything in my being because I am a Mike Zimmer stan, but is the quote I keep thinking of is, how hot is too hot for Zimmer's seat? So tell me what you think.
Is it how hot is too hot? Is that the title, or is Zimmer's seat on there too?
Yes, but I was thinking more towards Zimmer. But if you have a different avenue,
no,
you want to take this.
How hot is too hot? How hot is too hot? We're gonna do Justin Jefferson. He scored 3 touchdowns this game, a la Randy Moss back in the day, and he got 3 gritties, and those gritties were so hot that it got too hot.
All right. I like the positive energy you bring. I was thinking more towards Zimmer was on the hot seat, but I like that. Well, let's sum it up here. Let's do some score predictions. So, Dave, you can come on out and cut that music, and we'll get ready to send this thing home. I have not tallied the record this year. I know that I'm 3-3. Ryan came through and said he was 4-2. I think Dave is the opposite, right? Are you 2-4, Dave? Are you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the guest at? Do you know by chance?
3-3. All
right. So the guests are homers, if you can tell, Sara. So you're really putting some pressure here on the guest record. But let's just fly through some predictions of what we think is going to happen on Sunday night. I'll go first. I still do think it's going to be a shootout. I think Zimmer's going to have this team roaring to go. He preached aggressiveness before the bye in closing out teams, so I think he sticks by that. Though I think the point total, I think Vegas has it at like 52 points total. I would probably bet the over in that if it's going to be a shootout. I'm going to go 31-30. Dak and the Cowboys do make it close, though. I think Dak probably drives and scores, and maybe they need the onside kick to get it back. But I'm going to go 31-30 Vikes on Sunday Night Football. Somebody's got 100-17 in the chat. My gosh. All right, Sara, what do you got for your Cowboys?
I'm going to take the over for sure on this game. I'm thinking I would probably say Cowboys. I'm probably 4 touchdowns. I'm going to say 34 and Vikings 27.
All right. We have opposite in the chat for Clifford. Clifford thinks the Vikes will have 34. But I could see it going the way you just mentioned for sure. Ryan, I'm going to leave you for last because I think you're going to hit us with a bombshell here. So, Dave, what do you think?
Oh, I've been calling all week for the Vikings. I think it's going to be extremely close. Like as in final drive and field goal by Joseph, 34-31 Vikings.
Oh man. All right, Ryan, what do we got? You've been the best one so far this year, so fans should listen to you.
By the way, Joseph, he asked me earlier, and I forgot to get to it when I had a chance to talk. I'm drinking Noble Oak. Noble Oak. I don't know where you get this from because I didn't buy it. It is doing this number on me tonight, though, for sure. I think I'm going to go 35-31 Cowboys. I think they're a better team. I think they're a better offense.
Ryan.
And CeeDee Lamb is going to come in and crush our hearts, just like he should, because he's really fucking good. So
In
I'm going to go
U.S. Bank.
35-31 Cowboys.
In U.S. Bank,
I'm
with our fans well lubricated because they start tailgating at about
They do start
0500 in the
early.
morning on Sunday night.
Hey,
Nah.
all these guys got to take their kids trick or treating and stuff, so they're just going to be getting to the game, just like I'm going to be getting to the game, No, but seriously, I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's actually going to come down to them scoring a touchdown to take the lead and win. Like 30, like we're up 31-28, and they come in with that touchdown and win the game. It's going to be a close game. I
So you're
think.
saying
One score game. I just think that they're going to end up winning.
you're saying flashbacks to the last game, really, right? But this time Dak and the Cowboys
They
prevail.
deliver. Yeah, they
Yes,
actually
all
throw to
right.
CeeDee Lamb more. Yeah.
Well, that's all I had for tonight's show. We went overtime. Maybe I spent a little bit too long on intros, whatever. But Sara, I want to give you a little opportunity here to kind of pump yourself up here. People are going to be listening either tomorrow when this podcast is released or the people live right now. If they want to interact and talk Cowboys football, where can they find you on Twitter? And do you do any like social media work for the Cowboys at all? Like writing anything, or are you just purely putting your opinions out on Twitter?
Well, just putting my opinions out on Twitter for now. Honestly, I haven't been able to get it together enough to write or anything with a full-time job in healthcare. I'm in a pandemic. So my Twitter
I
name
feel you
is
there.
at the football girl, GRL. So you can interact with me on there. Like I said, love to talk. I mean, I love football, obviously my first love, but all things sports. So easy place to find me and chat. And I would like to say Ryan has officially become my favorite person on this podcast with his final pick of the game.
We're gonna have to remove that co-host, Ryan. You can go to the Cowboys Happy Hour after this.
Just anytime there's a Oklahoma player on that team, I'm pretty much picking them. So
Fair
Do
enough.
we
Fair enough.
we just need to get an Oklahoma player for Ryan to really have some Vikings fandom these days, I
hey,
guess.
I cheer for it every year, and they never listen to me. And then you go look at Trey Brown dominating this year. You look at CeeDee Lamb dominating. Like we should have just made the moves, but we don't ever listen to me. Creed Humphrey's the best center in
Hey,
football.
we
We
had
don't
one,
we
did
don't
we
ever
not? We
listen.
still do.
Well, yeah, but he's fourth string.
Well, with that being said, I want to thank Sara specifically for coming on tonight. I really enjoyed our conversation. If the Vikings are lucky enough to make it to the playoffs and face you, we'll bring you back on. We'll have a good time there. But otherwise, best of luck the rest of the season after Sunday. I wish you nothing but the worst luck on Sunday night. For everybody else
Same to
listening
you.
in commenting in chat, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. I think we'll be back tomorrow night off a bye week. Flip and Eric should be back for Vikings Happy Hour, and then a very late episode of CTP Final Score on Sunday. Correct, Dave? Like
Oh,
we're gonna be
absolutely. We'll
close to
be
11
live
o'clock.
right before the final whistle. And what's great about Sunday night is we're all watching it live. There's no, hey, I'm streaming it and I'm 2 plays behind stuff. we should all be seeing it live because it's on NBC.
Yeah. Well, I might need to take Monday morning off depending on how that game goes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, thank you to everybody. Ryan, thanks for hopping back on. Sarah, thank you for hopping on as well. And Dave, I'm stealing your punchline, but what do we always say?
Skull! Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.